Let me just start by saying that the Season 12 story is incredibly hard to follow, but there's actually a super interesting, really compelling story being told. The Crow is involved, Osiris is involved, and the Cabal are involved, but it hasn't really been telegraphed that well in the game. So today I'm going to go through my theory about what is going to happen in Season 12 and possibly into Season 13 of Destiny 2. Okay, before I get to that, I need to give you a little bit of a recap of what has been going on, starting with Caital. Caital is Callus's daughter and a Cabal. You might remember him as that big raid boss that you killed about 1 billion times. So Ghaul was made Primus by Calus, and then Caital was in league with Ghaul, and they overthrow her father. And that was successful. Calus tried to send some shadows to go kill Ghaul. They were a failure, but we weren't, and we murdered Ghaul. Well, with a little help from the Traveler, of course. Once he died and the whole almighty plot, failed, the Cabal were left with two options. They could either go with Calus's death squad, or they could join Caital, Calus's daughter. Now that Calus is gone, there's only really one solution for the Cabal in the whole galaxy, and that is going with Caital. So today, Caital is rounding up the remaining Red Legion soldiers, and she realizes her nation is full of failure. She's just super depressed. She wants a better future. And by better future, she says, where foreign ships fall under fire and rival nations fall to their knees. Yeah, she's not that great either. So Caital has this beacon that's just out there blasting her name into the galaxy, prompting people to capture Calus, but he's gone. So apparently she didn't cover up that beacon very well, because now Osiris sort of ended up fresh on her trail. So let's talk about what's been going on with Osiris. Osiris is trying to hunt down the last Cabal crew, basically Caital's crew, but after discovering a message from Caital, he alludes to this in the tower sequence here.
I could not find any evidence of the ship or Calus himself on long-range scans, but remnants of the Cabal still linger. According to the intercepted transmissions, Calus's daughter, Caital, is trying to rally what's left of the Red Legion. As if we didn't have enough problems. I'd gone to the reef hoping to find insight into Caital's agenda among the Cabal there. Instead, I found something else. There's a strange new presence here. It grows as an organic technology, a small tower.
After that, he heads to the reef, and it's covered in cryptoliths that are brainwashing Cabal. Eventually, they leave and head to Scori's Cut on the Tangled Shore, and the message simply says, Caital sends an emissary to receive their tribute. So Osiris finds them all huddled around a rock, which we find out later is a cryptolith still being brainwashed by the Hive. The messages that the cryptolith is sending out are those of war, from Xivu Arath, sister to Oryx, by the way, the big bad from Destiny 1. The Cabal have been decimated by the cryptoliths. Here's what Sagira transmitted during Immolent Part 2. She plays snippets of Cabal distress transmissions and orders from Caital's scouts to lock down encampments. She displays images of slaughter, graves, and empty Cabal fortifications. If it's hitting them this hard, she says to Spider, your associates must be, what's the word? Dropping like flies. So Osiris, at Spider's suggestion of course, heads to the Dreadnought, which is active. Savathun, the Witch Queen, I believe has been chased out by Xivu Arath. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Savathun, the Witch Queen, is sort of like an outcast from the Hive. Xivu Arath is still there and has the full support of all the Hive. So Osiris and Sagira end up being able to sneak up on all of Crota's Hive kids and their kids, and he slaughters them all. To quote the lore entry, he paints the scene apocalyptic. 15 noble brood are reduced to cinders before a defense is even mounted. Yeah, so he just slaughters them all like they're nothing. So eventually, though, it seems like it ends up with him and Xivu Arath. And Xivu Arath overpowers Osiris and would have killed him had Sagira not stepped in and saved his life. Basically, Sagira detonates like a light bomb, saving him and wiping any remaining entries from the room. So that's how Osiris lost Sagira. So while he is transmitting this information back to the tower, Marasov also chimes in for a second. She says that she's been battling the Black Fleet in space, and she expects Savathun to be at the Dreaming City when she returns. So if we want to talk about Marasov, let's also talk about her brother, the Crow. So the Crow was revived on the Dreaming City. I believe he was pursued by Guardians and killed by them because we think he's evil. And he flees, and at some point near the reef, his ship explodes and he is dead and constantly being revived by his ghost. Some of the key takeaways are Spider saying, "You look like the underside of a Dreg's boot." And he asks, "How long were you trapped up there in the vacuum, dying and being reborn over and over again?" And the Crow says, "Long enough to know what eternity feels like." So he's been up there probably since shortly after he was revived. Now, before the bomb was placed in the Crow's ghost, he was just sort of doing stuff for the Spider. He ran into a warlock named Druis, who was fighting some Cabal and recognizes him. He ran into some Scorn, who called him father. So he's sort of getting an idea of what's going on with his past. And apparently someone named Calco has been chasing the Crow. Calco Young is basically a spy for Ikora Rey, by the way, but very little is known about her character. All of this infuriates the Spider. He doesn't think the Crow is being careful enough to conceal his identity. So the Spider puts a bomb in the Crow's ghost. Let me read you the passage about how this all went down. So they're sort of talking about how the Crow's not being careful enough, and here's how the Spider reacted. Spider snatched Glint out of the air with one hand. Glint shrieked and Crow stood swiftly, but just as swiftly saw the arc pikes of Spider's guards thrust at him. Spider made a clicking noise in the back of his throat and reached for a set of tools nearby. Tools used to pry open the shells of dead ghosts that would work on living ones as well. "What are you doing?" Glint demanded, fear in his voice. Crow stood frozen, having faced Spider's punishment before, but this was his ghost. A part of Crow also feared that perhaps he was misreading the situation. He was also so certain that Spider would never do anything to permanently hurt him. But when the Spider shocked Glint into paralysis with a small needle tool, Crow was disabused of that certainty. "Stop!" Crow cried as Spider wedged a flat tool between Glint's shell plates. "No." With a snap, Spider popped one of the casings off, and then he looked up to Crow and switched tools. "Don't worry," Spider said in soothing reassurance that flowed like ice through Crow's veins. "I'm just going to make some modifications," he said, igniting a cutting torch, "to better protect you from the world." Spider needs to die, right? Like that's terrible. He basically kidnaps a living being, tortures it, and puts a bomb inside of it. Spider is not a good character. So that has happened, and then the Crow, goes and helps Osiris with Ziva Wrath on the moon. Minor spoiler warning, jump forward 10 seconds. We know Crow's going to be freed. We know he's going to go back to the tower. What we don't know is why Zavala is hanging out with the Cabal in the Vidoc, and that's sort of where my theory comes in. So after all of this explanation, now they're sort of working together to figure out what's going on with these cryptoliths. I don't think this has been told very well in the game. This is mostly through lore and Immolent Part 2, which is added to Bungie.net. After all that explanation, here's what I think is going to happen. Caital is on her last leg. Caital is the Cabal leader, the only one that's really left. She's gotten her butt kicked so many times that she'll need an ally if the Cabal want to survive, period. That's where the scene comes in. That's either going to take place at the end of this season or it will lead us in for the next season. And I think we're going to help them because Savathun is still looming. Savathun is going to have Cabal, Hive, all sort of brainwashed. Right? And Savathun, as they say in the Vidoc, is setting up dominoes that she will knock down over the next 2 expansions. So the Hive are basically hammered because Osiris killed a ton of them. The Cabal only really have one leader left because the darkness ate all the other planets, including Calus. The Fallen have kind of, I don't really know what the hell the Fallen are doing. They're largely aligned with Spider, who's just a terrible person. And Beyond Light just sort of wrapped up everything that was going on with the Darkness and Elsie Bray and her sister. So really, we're only left with one overarching villain and a little bit of a mystery about the Darkness. Now, I'll give Beyond Light this. It reset a lot of the lore points. We sort of know there's one big bad Hive monster. It's Savathun. And now we know there's one big bad Cabal. It's Caital. The Fallen, it's basically Spider at this point. We know Marasov's on her way back finally after fighting the Dark Fleet. And I think what's going to happen is the fallen forces of Spider the Cabal forces of Caital and the Guardians are all going to go to war against the Hive, aka Savathun. That is my theory on how this is all going to wrap together. Now, I actually think Crow's story is less interesting in the grand context of all of that. But maybe I missed something. That's the lore so far about the season of the Hunt and the Wrathborn season. That's like everything that we know. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm onto something here? Do you think that's how it's going to play out? Obviously, we're friendly enough with the Cabal that we will talk to them on what looks like their warship. They're decimated. They have like one faction left that we know of. Anyway, I've been reading a ton about this. That was really fun to talk about and discover. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Peace out.